Awesome. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Webster Public Library. My name is Jenny Paxson. I'm the Reader's Discovery Librarian here at the Webster Library. And also, I do a lot of adult programming and for caregivers and parents of people with developmental disabilities. I'm lucky to have been able to partner with the Parents Helping Parents Coalition of Monroe County and Autism Up to set up these wonderful diverse abilities dialogues. This is our presentation on college and post-secondary options, and we have a panel every single month, usually on the first Wednesday at 11 a.m. Just a reminder, July is going to be the second Wednesday because of 4th of July. We like to skip the holiday week. Next month's is on like too much information or like questions you wouldn't like necessarily ask or don't know to ask. They're taboo questions. So we'll have a GI and some relationship type people, sex ed type questions. So if you can think of any questions, please let us know and send those in so that we can ask those questions at the next month's presentation. How I got involved in this, besides meeting some wonderful people with Parents Helping Parents and Autism Up, is that I have 2 children with developmental disabilities, and they're very young, so they haven't come to the college age and options yet, but that'll be soon enough, so it's good to have a panel like this. My daughter is 8 and my son is 10, and my daughter has Down syndrome, and they both have autism. So finding out resources for parents and caregivers, because I was totally lost when I first started out with this. So making those connections, making that community, and having that like village of people to help you is so important. And that's why I'm lucky to be able to partner with these great organizations. And I'm gonna have Britt come up because she's part of my village here from Parents Helping Parents Coalition of Monroe County, and just talk a little bit about their organization. Go.
Thanks, Jenny. I'm hoarse today, sorry. My name is Brittany Jensick. I am the president of Parents Helping Parents Coalition of Monroe County. I also am a parent to 21 children, 14 of whom have intellectual, developmental, and medical disabilities. 3 moms formed Parents Helping Parents Coalition, sitting around a table trying to figure out how we could make sure nobody felt alone on this journey. It can be very isolating, very lonely, very intimidating, overwhelming, all of the above. So we wanted to collaborate with other organizations in the community to kind of build a safety net to help families navigate some of the challenges associated with parenting and caregiving for individuals with disabilities. We do purposeful programming. Every other month we have a play date that we host. Our next play date is June 22nd from 10 to 12 at Challenger Miracle Field. It is our summer spectacular. It's our biggest event of the year. It's free. We have concessions. We have a bounce house. We have providers available at the event that will be able to answer some questions, especially for those families who are not receiving services or as many services as they should. We also, on the opposite month, do webinars similar to this presentation. We have panelists and or speakers to provide information regarding any of the topics that we hear from the community are important to them. We do that on the second Wednesday of every other month from 8 to 9, and we do it as a Zoom. I'm super excited to be here. As I said, I have 14 children with disabilities. Those children range in age from 6 to 19. So I do have one child that has transitioned. And it was not a great experience. I have a couple that are right on her heels that have been a better experience and a different experience. So I'm very glad to be here to learn all of what everybody has to say. Do you guys want to introduce your dope?
Just say a little bit about Autism.
Yep.
Okay. Hi, I'm Mary Brustwitz. I'm one of the family navigators at Autism Up. Autism Up, you were formed by 3 families. Well, in 2004, Autism Up was founded by 4 moms who were looking for more activities, things for their children to do. And so Autism Up started, and I think within a month it had 20 people going to their little programs that they were renting space in different office buildings around Rochester. And now, correct me, Jean, I think we have over 3,000 participants. We offer recreational and lifelong learning opportunities across the lifespan, starting from 3. I think the oldest participant just turned 63. And we're looking for how we can age and grow with our participants. I have a 26-year-old son with autism. He has one more semester in college. I can't wait to talk about some of the experiences and some of the things that we're still learning. Voice cracks still when I talk about this. I don't know, should I introduce myself more? Or?
Yeah, just a second. I just want to thank you and Britt and Kim for being partners with us, and I'm very excited that you're also be able to be on the panel today because you're able to show that other aspect of why you're here too.
Thank you. And I did want to just say Autism Up, if you go to autismup.org and the support service pages, this summer we're having picnics on the playground, popsicles on the playground. It's a great opportunity to meet other families, build your community, and eat. So look on our support services page.
Awesome. So now if we usually like to do, starting off these panels, introducing each of the different panelists and why you're on the panel and like what your organization does and like how you got involved kind of thing.
Hi, I'm Jean Ricigliano. I am the Senior Director of Full Life Academy and the Center for Community Transition at Autism Up. Mary did a very nice job of explaining about Autism Up. I will talk a little bit about my journey. So I was on the original board at Autism Up, so I've been involved with Autism Up since the very beginning, kind of in and out. But the most important reason I am sitting here is because I'm a parent of a child with a disability who really the transition experience was challenging because I think people underestimated Lisa. So I always felt like there needs to be more. There needs to be more options and opportunities. And my journey through 30 plus years of working and focusing on transition and really helping families, organizations, whoever will listen to me about what we should be doing for our participants as they exit entitlements, meaning the school system, is really kind of my love. But my second love is the opportunity that Autism Up gave me to create an opportunity, which I will be talking about. We'll hear more about Full Life Academy, why we have Full Life Academy, and why it's different than anything else there is available. But I
You
appreciate...
can talk about that for a little bit, just for your intro if you want to. Just tell us a little bit about Full Life Academy.
Yeah, so Full Life Academy was started in March of 2020, as you all know, what happened in March of 2020. Creating a really person-centered opportunity. It's not a program. It isn't, these are opportunities, so people get a chance to take classes. I started with 9 participants virtually, myself teaching. And then as we grew, in July of 2021, I said enough of virtual, let's meet in person. And from then on, it has grown every year or term after that. As I said, I started with 9 people. We have over 100 participants with over 40 plus classes. Just in Full Life Academy, not speaking about programming, there's over 70 classes for all of Autism Up. But I want everybody to get to introduce themselves because I'll go into the nitty gritty of why Full Life Academy is different. Thank you.
Awesome. I am Renee Turpin. I am the program manager of Life Prep at Nazareth. We're a collab of 3 different entities, we'll say. The Arc of Monroe, in which I work for, Nazareth University, and Victor School Districts. We provide, I think, the most awesome college experience of, I mean, I know you're.
No, mine's a little different.
Okay, I know. You know, I don't want to be, I move over here when I say that, arm's reach. An amazing experience. You know, we're a typical 4-year program that we try to mimic what a matriculated student at Nazareth would do. Students come in. Our main focus is just that social and independence growth, that we're just like that little bit of a foundation to where they could then move into maybe another program that's more, we'll say, work focused. Or if somebody is really ready to engage in any type of work, they could do that as well. Students take a NAS class of their choosing every semester, and they have a voc placement that they work throughout the year as well. We are fully integrated on Nazareth campus. Let's see, we go to, you know, we could be part of any clubs. I mean, we have all sorts of different things. I don't know. Do you want me to go more into nitty-gritty or wait to go through? I mean,
Whatever you would like to talk about right now, go ahead.
I think I'll wait for the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Mary Judge Dygert, and I work at the Center for Disability and Education at the University of Rochester. What we do is we provide connections and linkage for families, so we get lots of calls from parents who are, my student's getting ready to transition and I haven't heard anything from the school district, or who do I talk to? And so we'll talk through what the situation the parents are experiencing. We may refer them to Autism Up, or share with them a database of programs that would include NAS. And so we are that connection for families. We hear a lot from families about how overwhelming it is, similar to what you guys were saying earlier, right? Like what services are available? Where do I go? This is all overwhelming. Who needs what? Who's paying for what? So trying to connect folks and provide some sort of guidance there. So that's one of the biggest things that we do here locally. And then a lot of our work is national. We partner with Think College, which is a website that has a whole section for parents and for professionals in the field of intellectual disability that you can access to see the over 300 college programs in the country. There's, well, it depends on the day. There's 32, but we may have 34 programs here in New York State. And then you can search the database and see what programs work for you. All programs are very different. They're all funded very differently. Some students are attending K through 12 still and will come and participate and have an experience on the campus. Others, students will complete K through 12 and then apply to a program on a college campus that's, so there's differences and each one serves really important purposes. And so our work then now has shifted to still partnering with the National Coordinating Center. There's standards that were vetted throughout the field of inclusive higher ed, and those standards got feedback from everyone that's involved in programs of inclusive higher education, and now we have an accreditation agency, and so programs that meet those standards they don't necessarily have to meet all the standards, but programs can apply and then go through an accreditation process and then receive that national recognition for meeting those standards. So that is where a lot of my work is focused on now. Is we're close to finishing the pilot sites, and so looking at how each pilot site went and what we learned, and that includes getting information from students with intellectual disabilities and families. So a lot of our work is local. We've worked really closely with Roberts Wesleyan, the University of Rochester Tour program, CUCA's program, Drive program. So CUCA, Roberts Wesleyan, and MCC, that's what I was forgetting. And then also colleges in New York City with the CUNY system. So we've done a lot of work locally, still continue to be a point of contact for families, but then also looking at the whole nation to see what's working, what's not, what can we learn from each other.
So is there an evaluation process for your programs, or how do you decide what the students, like yours specifically, but like then do you evaluate people to help them get into the correct program, or how does that work for when the students come to you?
So students will talk through what the diagnosis is specifically, because that determines some of the college programs. It needs to be based on funding streams, specifically in intellectual disability. Some programs are able to do accept students with an intellectual disability and autism. So it kind of depends what the family is looking for, what the family wants. Some parents are like, you want me to send my student from K through 12 to a college campus? Or to live on a college campus? Like, just, no, we're not there yet. So then we're able to talk through, okay, well, where are you at? What does your son or daughter want to do? And then help kind of search through that database and give some filter suggestions of how to best find those, because it can be really overwhelming. It is overwhelming.
It's very overwhelming, coming at it from the parent side of that.
Yep.
We kind of knew that our son was going to go to MCC first. It's a community college, for folks out there who don't know, and then go on from there. But there's all sorts of pieces in those last 4 years of high school that if you don't know, you don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? And that's really tricky. The school told me, and I'm using my son for this example, but I think you'll be able to transfer to your child some of this. So he was graduating with a Regents diploma, and there's a math component to that, right? And they said, well, he has a lot of anxiety around that, so we're not going to make him do math. We'll let him take these other classes like coding and, I don't know, like 3 other types of classes that he filled in for his last 2 years of mathematics. Now, the school knew, and on his IEP, the transition plan clearly stated, this young man wants to be an engineer. And I'm a humanities person, so I know engineers deal with mathematics because I won't go near it, right? It's like a peanut allergy. If it's in the air, I'm not going to go near it. I'm going to get inflamed, But they didn't have that. So he goes into MCC. They do something called a placement test, right? And that math level wasn't there. So, and he had Access VR support. So all of a sudden, he's got to take math classes to get him up to college level. And that costs money. And thank goodness we're at MCC. And because the Access VR coordinator said, oh, it's really bad when they're like a Hamilton or someplace and they have to take these makeup classes and pay that, and they're not getting college credit. So that's an aspect that I think just to kind of be aware of. You don't know that until you're in. He got up to speed, but that's how come he's older and he's finishing his degree, because he had to get the math under his belt. So there's components there, and you were talking about, you talk to the parents, but it's talking to the person and say, geez, what's your passion? Mm-hmm. And if it's engineering and poetry, those are 2 very different things. But put together something, and then you talk to the person at the college and say, could we get a program together that would combine poetry and engineering? That is not my son, by the way. But he is good. He is good with words. It's my hope, right? But so that's, I love that idea that you have this database and you have this accreditation, because that makes it a safe place for parents, and parents who don't know.
It's some of the feedback we've gotten from parents is what's taken you so long.
Right.
To do that, right? And it's a process to vet it, and it's funding, it's bipartisan funding through Congress, and it's like there's a whole, there's a lot to it. But it has been interesting to be like, hey, hey, everybody here, and they're like, yeah, where have you been? We've been waiting. But just a little bit to piggyback on what you're saying, and I think you talked about it earlier, Renee, before we started, is that transition and what people at K through 12 know about the programs that may be available and what opportunities are available, and how that works. There's a huge gap. And we still, all of us, still have a lot of work to do around that whole transition piece.
For sure.
Yeah, and one thing that I've also noticed is, I know I'm on the adult side, but we also work with Victor and school age, is a lot of districts try to keep students in home because they don't have to shell out that money. It is a parent's right and a student's right, we'll say, that you're able to go to any type of program that you want. So you might have to fight for it, but it is your right. And I don't think a lot of parents realize that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because they do. They want to keep them in-house.
Could you guys just, oh, sorry, didn't turn on. Hi. Could you guys go into detail about funding? Like, is it something that parents, families, students are supported with? Or is it just like regular old college where they sign up for financial aid and hope for the best?
I'll speak for mine. We're a community pre-voc service, so that is more geared towards somebody that wants to work at the end of whatever we'll say. Everything goes through Medicaid. So in order to come to Life Prep or even like an MCC program that the ARC offers as well, you'd have to go through the front door, you'd have to get your Medicaid, you have to do all of your assessments, and then you send everything to the good old state and they say, well, this person on paper looks like that, yep, we're good for community pre-voc. So once you get that okay for community pre-voc services, then you can start applying. Then, you know, that whole self-direction gets thrown in there. And again, it's very overwhelming, you know, and especially if you don't know. There's two different budgets. You could be res only or self-direction, but Medicaid pays for everything at Life Prep. And I will speak for our MCC program as well. You just have to have that approval and from the state. So to come to Life Prep, it costs families $0. The thing that I will say about financial aid, and sorry to like put it out to anybody, but if you don't finish your degree, you have to pay all of that back. So therefore, when it comes to financial aid, that's something that you want to be very smart about, because I know when I oversaw the MCC program again years ago, that was a thing, that why don't we have these students apply for financial aid? I think that's not a good idea, because if somebody doesn't finish their pathway, you have to pay all of that financial aid back.
And I'm going to piggyback on that one just because my nephew, one of my nephews he started at MCC, he finished at RPI. He said, you know, the first year we applied for financial aid for MCC, and my son also had Access VR. Back then, Access VR was still being a little bit more financially helpful. And I'll talk about that if someone reminds me in a second. My nephew said, don't use the FAFSA for the other years at community college, because then when he goes to finish his degree, if it takes longer, you won't have those years. You won't have eligibility for those other years, and that's going to cost you more than MCC.
Oh.
So
Didn't know that.
that was a huge. That's been very, very helpful. Having him told me that back then. But yeah, so FAFSA, when my son graduated, you know, I think the eligibility limit, the household income had to be, I think it was 120,000, and now it's, I think, 72,000.
Changes every year.
And that includes the income of everyone. So if a younger sister's working at Wendy's or Dunkin' Donuts, her salary is going into the household income.
I think one of the distinctions is important to make is that there's different programs, and it's going to depend on if the student is matriculated or non-matriculated.
There you go, yeah.
So,
What does that mean?
so if a student enters college as a student without an intellectual disability, a more traditional way, then there's the tuition component, of where you're paying tuition, you can apply for financial aid, household income comes into play. And I don't want to speak for Renee's program, but for a lot of programs specifically for students with intellectual disability, those students are not matriculated, which means they're getting a certificate, not an actual degree.
Correct.
So they're not getting a bachelor's degree or an associate's degree, but they're going to get a certificate of completion that they completed a structured program. So I think that's just one thing that's important to remember, because now for some of those programs, you may, like Syracuse University, you may still pay tuition, but you also may be able to get different services, some of which Renee referenced, to supplement some of that or supplement some services. So it just kind of depends on what program the student's applying for.
Correct. So our students are non-matriculated, so that means that we're not part of the college, we'll say. When they take a class, it's more for social purposes than any type of credit. And so to be a matriculated student, I think you have to do so many classes for a semester, part-time, probably full-time. What's it, 15 or something? I don't even know. It's been so long. And again, you're paying, and you have to pass, and then you get your degree. But for Life Prep at NAS, you come away with a certificate of completion.
And some of the inclusive higher education programs that are specific for students with intellectual disability have received federal recognition to be what's called a comprehensive transition program, where they've been vetted through an application process and families are able to apply for financial aid for those programs that have been approved.
And I do know.
And that's where it all starts getting
Yeah.
a little, yeah.
And again, let's add to the overwhelming, it's going to depend on what type of service or program that you are looking at. I know our MCC program, they offer a pathway to a certificate of maybe like hospitality or this or that. Yes, you do have to pay for that. Over at Nazareth, we don't do that. So again, even though we're both from the Arc of Monroe, our programs are very similar. If you pay for here, you take all these classes, you do get the same certificate that a matriculated MCC student would take. When you go to Life Prep, you're not going to get that matriculated bachelor's.
Yeah. So Full Life Academy is not actually, we have a partnership with Nazareth University, and we have several of our classes, one day a week on campus, but we are not a college program. We're not a program at all, really. They're just opportunities. So as I said before, we have a schedule of each term is about 10 to 12 weeks, but there are, I would say, 40 different classes Monday through Saturday. The great thing about Full Life Academy is that we really focus on those areas of a person's life. So living, learning, earning, and relationships. And actually, we're guided kind of by this very interesting kind of array of areas. So My Place, fun and talents, getting around, earning your way, lifelong learning, community connections. So we're really looking at the whole person and figuring out, okay, so what is it that some of your goals are, and how can we advise you on some of the classes that we have that you would be important to you and for you. So it is very person-centered, and we try to meet the needs of each participant as they move forward. So there isn't like a certificate. People can continue to take classes, and as we hear and talk to families and participants, we ask them, what are we missing? What's important to you? What area of your life? Where can we create these classes? I'm going to call in experts to come and teach those classes. So we have lots of collaborations in the community because it's not just about being at 50 Science Parkway. It's about walking out the door of 50 Science Parkway and accessing the resources and opportunities that there are for you. So for one of our classes, I'll use this as just an example. Safety awareness, we've had a long-term, at least 3 years plus, working with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. So the 4 Monroe County sheriffs who are the autism liaisons teach that class from the perspective of safety, but also from the perspective of being a parent of a person, and because not just children. So we have, some of the sheriffs have adults. But how do we teach people about personal safety, safety in the community? But that collaboration has meant really everything about not just teaching our participants, but it's a win-win because the sheriffs are learning so many things about what should we do, what are we not thinking about. They ask the participants, like, what would help us do this, or what should we know, what should we learn when we're interacting. Just so that both of us didn't say this, but I know Autism Up, it's funny you think we just serve people on the spectrum. Anyone in the community is open to take any of our classes. We don't ask for verification of a disability. We just say, how can we help you? And please come on in and let's work together to get the goals or work on the goals that are important to you. Yes?
I'm sorry, we came in late. Who do you represent?
Autism Up.
I'm sorry, what?
Autism Up.
Autism Up.
Yes. Yep.
It's a local not-for-profit agency that has opportunities or programming for people who need the extra support. And as Jean just said, you don't need to have autism to participate. They run classes Monday through Saturday, and some of them are lifetime learning skills. Jean has brought in a chef to do cooking classes, cooking with small appliances, which I think is brilliant.
It's a great, who wants to use a stove?
That's right.
Who needs to? No one.
And physical activity, right? And also the social. And I think every class has a social component to it.
So every class, it's like, you kind of hide that pill in the cheese. But we talk about social opportunities, communication, socialization, working as a team. So we're really working on all of these aspects of a person's life, but it may not say it exactly, but for one of our classes, Navigating Relationships, it's about communication. How do we interact with our peers, with our family, with our coworkers? What do you say? What don't you say? How can you say it? It's just really, really digging down deep on what our children are often not taught in school. I'm a special ed teacher. I have been in education a long time. Full Life Academy was built from my seeing what wasn't done in the school system to what we should be doing. And as far as information and referral and the phone calls, thousands of phone calls a year that we get. I am the navigator for the transition age youth, and the questions that I get are, I hear what you're saying, Renee. It's like we need to empower our schools, but as an educator, not in undergrad nor in grad school did I get information about resources. You know why I knew? Because I'm a parent. I had to know. But the opportunities that we have to really empower the teachers, and when you talk to educators, they want to know this. They want and need to be able to help their students grow from school to the real world. The biggest question I get is like, I wonder what Johnny or Jane is doing now. We want to know. We put so much time and effort, not just as parents, but as that circle of support that we have around our children to want to know, like, how can we do this better? What can we do? And where are the connections that we can start to make so that we can help them build a full life? Full Life Academy is not a program, so I have participants, one of those over 100 that I have now, may take 1 class a week or 10 classes a week. It really depends on what's important to them and for them, and how they can build those strategies in the toolbox to have a full life.
Can you, how is that, how do the students pay for that? Are they, I assume there's a cost.
So there is a cost, and it is about 99.9% of our funding is through self-direction. However, we do have self-pay, and we also have some scholarships. But just recently, as the plan was, to apply for Access VR services. We have been awarded a contract with Access VR. So now, as we want it to, it's not just those daily life skills, but it's also building toward employment. We have some exciting opportunities at Autism Up, which had just been launched. One of them being, we started the Perk Up Cafe when starting Full Life Academy, but financial literacy, we partner with the Perk Up Cafe so that our participants not just hear about financial literacy, but actually I want it to be hands-on. But we have just kind of a reboot of Perk Up Cafe. So we have participants taking classes in the cafe, but we have just launched our Scoop Up Creamery. It is our ice cream truck. So you should see us in the community. But we will have participants learning on that ice cream truck. So we look forward to growing Full Life Academy, but also growing opportunities and options for not just you and your families, but for whoever would love to listen to. All of us are committed to that positive transition planning process. So just want to make sure that families and everyone get what they need.
You said Access VR.
Yes.
Amber went through that.
Great.
Nothing happened.
Well,
Didn't get it, nothing happened.
let's talk.
Yeah, so there's a lot out there. Access VR is a great program, but you really have to keep on top of it. It had been very effective for my son at first, and then it wasn't. And so, he's kind of regrouping, and, he found himself a job first before they found him a job. It's like, so,
It's okay.
So, you have to, but the thing is, when you need something, right, is being able to advocate, say, I think I need some help. And that's for anybody. I have a 23-year-old daughter, and she needs some support right now. She's doing great, but it's got to come from her, right? It's got to come from the person. And that's what Access VR will tell you from the get-go. You've got to keep in touch with us. You're out of school, we're not going to hound you. If you're interested, keep in touch with us. So I think it is a nice bridge, right? And I think,
Great.
but you do have to keep up with that, and that's a little daunting, right? And then there's the whole thing, sometimes the programs, they seem like it might be a good fit, but sometimes people underestimate, right? And that doesn't feel good, to be on the receiving end of being underestimated and kind of being spoken down to in a bit. That doesn't feel good to anyone. And so being able to say, gee, I don't know what I'm getting out of this right now. Could you explain that to me? And I love Jean. I love young adults talking with Jean because you are so positive, because you don't underestimate people, and you genuinely ask, "What do you want to do?
What's your goal?
What's your goal?" Yeah.
But I think engagement needs to start earlier, as I say, early and often. Okay. And a transition starts at age 12. So that level 1, that question about needs, interests, and preferences needs to be talked, and those questions need to be asked every single year from the parent's point of view, from the student's point of view, and from a teacher or educator that knows that child interest, and then you build on that. So if somebody is saying something at 12, I want to be a fireman, and they're still saying, you know, I really want to be in emergency services and this, and we haven't done anything to help that person get more information, explore, do some informational interviews, then we're not doing our job. But we need to really engage students and families. I am telling you, the reason I'm sitting here is because I didn't have a good transition plan for my daughter because they underestimated her. So understanding what is available and what isn't, and what can we do and what should be done, what is the compliance piece of transition is really, really critical and important. And, and so we're here to help.
Yep.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Probably since like 14, I have been hoping to do like a wildlife service or something.
Well, then we need to talk about that. So having those conversations about what's important to you, where your passion is, what opportunities, and where are could there be a community-based work assessment that is focused on that area, but we're not sure. So that's the discovery process, really, when we work with Access VR as well as OPWDD. But for Full Life Academy, it's a discovery opportunity every day, because students are, and they're not students, they're participants, really discover things about themselves. And we learn every day. I learn more from participants than I do anyone else. But it's really listening and wanting to really create options and opportunities so that you can build on the skills you need to be successful.
Absolutely. The way I kind of see Access VR is that's more of like a short term. That's a short term, let's help you, whereas OPWDD is going to be more of a long term. And sometimes you have the two of them fighting because neither of them want to pay. I keep it real. But again, Access, great, but it's short term. OPWDD is going to be long term. And to go based on like what Jean was just saying is you had said you want to be...
Wildlife conservation.
Okay. Does that mean that you might be the head of New York State Wildlife Conservation? No, because a lot of people are going to say, you can't do that. And you know what, honestly, if you don't have a diploma, which is something that we were also trying to fight to get off job applications, do you have a diploma or not? Because if you click no, guess what? You're going nowhere. But let's find something in that area. So you are going to be successful because it's your passion, you know? So we find the passions, what they want to do, what anybody wants to do. You know, we have a student that loves and wanted to help out in special education. I want to be a special education teacher. Well, unfortunately, that is not obtainable because not only do you need a degree, but you need a college degree. Unfortunately, not having a high school diploma, you cannot go to college. But what about a teacher's assistant? So now, going over to Holy Childhood, they have a classroom in which this person is now helping out. We found that avenue. So.
Where do you see the breakdown that families are not knowing all of this information? I have children in the school district, and I have children that are out of district placements. The transition process has been drastically different between my public school children and my children that are placed at Mary Cariola. Mary Cariola has it's been from 12 on very involved in that transition process and what are your interests and what would you like to do and going out into the community. It's just been a very different experience. The school district, I feel like transition didn't happen until 6 months before she graduated. Like I had, and the options that the school was offering me were clearly the 3 options they wanted me to take. And then she only qualified for one of those 3 options. I didn't know what I didn't know. Where is the breakdown? Is it, our public schools, like, how do we get the four of you into public schools to be doing the same presentation? How do we get you to the CSE chairs? How do we get you to the transition specialists? Where's the breakdown, in your opinions, that families are not aware of all of the information that you're sharing today? And how can we as advocates and families help bring that information to light more than it is at this point?
I'm just going to say a quick thing. My son was Regents track, but his counselor never, ever mentioned anything like this to me. It was his special ed coordinator who said, when he was a senior, said, "You've got to get in here. The XSVR coordinator is leaving in an hour, and you need to come in and see him." And I was like, "Oh." Let me run up to the school. I've got an hour, good thing I was near the school at the time. But so, are the counselors talking to the special ed? Are they, if your child is kind of, and my son doesn't qualify for OPWDD, and as he heartbreakingly says, I'm not even a good disabled person. Gray area. Yeah, because, he doesn't, so what do you do when someone's falling through the cracks? And he's a perfect fall through the cracks, And it's really hard because, again, you don't know what you don't know. And here you are, and people are saying things, oh, just apply. Oh, just, no. Why are we going to do something that's kind of wasting everybody's time? So I think that having one within the school districts, right? Having that a little bit more open discussion now. I don't know if they have, what do they call it? Oh, come on, like
an open or a round table. A round
table. Okay, now we're going to talk about.
That's what they need.
Now we're going to, what do you think? What are the options here? And maybe, then have Jean's like, do you have any ideas? You're on the front lines too, but as a parent, it's frustrating because, you see that they're not talking. Right? And then I always say to families, look, I don't play football or anything like that. I always use film analogies. I was like, okay, we're on a film crew. Somebody's got to be the director, and it might have to be you, because we want the protagonist of the film, your child, to shine. Right? So we need the lighting director. We need everyone, right, to make the star of our film shine.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to just say it's, how do we get in front of those folks? I think in many ways, school districts are just as overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that's out there and systems and how they work. And I think that we all have to figure out a way to work a little bit smarter and not harder.
Correct.
There are initiatives. There's a New York State Inclusive Higher Ed Coalition that lots of folks are invited from colleges and school districts. We have a lot of people from Long Island that attend those meetings. Folks from here are all invited and notified. There is a public service awareness campaign that I'm happy I can easily send or share with you guys that is geared towards school leaders and teachers to talk about some of this stuff and who to contact and could offer support. So there's a lot of little efforts being made out there. But I do think that if we can look at or work with school districts to see, similar to what you guys were saying earlier, if setting the expectations very differently. There's a lot of bias and perceptions for students with any disability, and within, depending on what their disability is, there's a lot of bias that comes up. But, I had a career day in 4th grade, so I don't know why students with disabilities don't also have a career day. But why that career day isn't with every other student that has a career day. And when there's an open house and when there's a college fair and when all that stuff is happening, somebody that works in this field that represents should be, and it should all be together and everyone get information about how it works together. Because there are nuances when you have a disability, but at the end of the day, it's not all that different. It's complicated, the funding, but Jean, you could speak certainly to it differently. But
Well, no, I mean, there are so many systems set up to be able to support transition. We have a wonderful, it's called the Regional Midwest Partnership, which the team is incredible. It's a team of 4 that serves the Midwest.
Right.
I worked at one point when it was separated in transition. So you've got a lot of responsibilities, and so we all need to work collaboratively to really get the word out. And so I do monthly Next Up workshops on areas of transition interest and need for families. We try to advertise that and get that information out. I have probably been a member of our local Transition Collaborative, which is a collaborative of school districts, transition people really focused on transition for 30 years. And I'm probably the longest member. But really just really hearing and I hear right from those school districts in transition, that they want to do the work that you're asking them to do. It's just really, how do we empower families and participants? Remember, it's that shift of power. As they exit high school, that shift of power. How do we get people to know more about what really is already here?
Correct.
I answer my phone every day, probably several times a day, and say, how may I help you? And these are the questions that I get every single day about what should happen, what could happen. The calls I don't like is a 25-year-old who was never, maybe they didn't realize he was getting, he or she was getting a Regents diploma and didn't think about maybe they needed some supports and services. But it's never too late. When I talk to families or the participant on the phone and say, you know what, you can't turn the clock back. Let's start today and see where we can go forward. And then talking about all of these great opportunities that we have. We are very, very lucky in Monroe County to have the resources that we do. But that's not going to help you now. But I'm going to offer my services. I'm at your service. Ask any question. If I don't have the answer, I probably know somebody that does. But we want to make sure that you and your family members are supported and get what they need as they transition from school to the real world. Yes.
Couldn't all of the guidance counselors at all the schools, when, like Amber, when she was a senior in high school, why couldn't they know about you and just for all their students that are special ed, why couldn't they have a meeting at night at the school some night for all the parents of all these special ed kids that they've got?
So I worked several places, but they try to do that, and sometimes the response isn't what you'd expect, and honestly, it's not that it's right or wrong, but those guidance counselors, those school counselors, they have a caseload of hundreds of students, and I'm not making excuses, but it's just reality. So how can we empower families and participants and students with the information you need? And that's why we're all here. And thank you, Jenny, for inviting us, because we need more of these forums and this information. We need a movement is what we need.
I would agree.
For that, making sure that everyone gets what they need as they're exiting and beyond exiting. And that's...
And when they enter college,
Yeah,
believe
for
me,
sure.
You know, in theory, you know, the college doesn't have to follow a student's IEP, right? But now especially, colleges really want to retain their students. So they're going to offer, most colleges do have
Student accessibility.
student accessibility cert. They all call it something slightly different. But, you know, that's great. But will the professor follow those accommodations, right? So there's learning, there's that transition from here, and then that transition on the other side too. And if one is going into an employment, right, to have those supports there as you're going in, so you're successful in that job or that other situation that you're going to be pursuing.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Renee, I know you had mentioned like Arcus Monroe has a couple programs specifically like Prevost connected with OPWDD.
Yep.
Do you know like other programs in the area that offer similar types of services? Because I know like specifically for Nazareth, there's like a cap of how many people they'll take each year.
Correct.
So what are some other programs around the area that are similar to that? And then my second question is, how do you navigate those conversations with CSE chairs who might have like a predetermined plan already? And I guess how do you advocate for your kid?
I do, yeah, so to kind of bounce back, this is, sitting here this is how I feel. You all are all the school districts. We are the adult services. You see this alley right here? There's nothing in between here helping us. So, Melissa Mantel Houston's going to kill me. She works with Victor, her and I are very good friends, and she said, Renee, there is such a need right here. Let's do it. This could be our job. There's a need for a job right here. So anybody that is out there, I'm not doing it. I am, the only way that I am a millennial is I like the time between work and play. I like to play. I don't want to add more to my plate. We have to be that, we'll say the navigator. You need to be that bridge between school districts and adult services of the transition. You need to be that person going around saying what the Arc of Monroe has for you, what Heritage has for you, what Autism Up has for you, because people are not aware. Oh, we'll go to your care coordinator. Okay, that's really funny because you know what? Every week I get well, I'm so-and-so's new care coordinator. Okay, well, I can't wait till next Tuesday when I'm going to get the new care coordinator for this person. So unfortunately, you have to take things in your own hand, you know, as family, but we need that person. So you say you need a job? I'm telling you. There's a huge gap. And I'm telling you, family, there needs to be something in between that families, that they will pay. There has to be something. Because why can't there be some type of book of all the, we'll say, you know, if your person might need the supports of a day hab. Well, here's all the day habs in Monroe County or the surrounding counties. Oh, well, I'm about a community pre-voc and these are my things that I would like to do. Well, let me open up this handy dandy booklet. Yeah, it's gonna be this big, but still the resources are there. That's, I feel like, where a lot of the disconnect is, because you had just asked, well, what's out there? I mean, it's out there. The information is out there, but I just don't feel like people understand or know where to go. So we need that in between, because you know what? You could go to the Arc of Monroe right now. I could go right up here. I could tell you all of their services in about 2 seconds. I could do the same thing for Heritage. And maybe people don't understand the agencies that are out there that provide these supports and programs. School districts are there, adult services are there. How do we bridge that gap? I don't know. I wish I mean, I think I kind of know, but again, it's just a matter of probably, you know, creating that. So other pre-vocs, you know, I can speak for the Arc of Monroe just because that's whom I work for. You know, we have ArcWorks, that's a community pre-voc. So again, that's funded through Medicaid. It's, you know, it's integrated work that they might go, and more like piecework. They also get paid, I believe, right, Julia? They still get paid? Yep. You know, so if that's what you want to do, we have 2 college programs. We also have project searches, which all agencies do, and that's more definitely geared towards your work. So you do a little bit of classroom during the day, but then you work for most of the day, and then they will help probably go to employment, which would be supportive employment. So you have a job coach sometimes help you on your way to employment. Most programs do have a cap just because of the resources that each program has. So you said what other programs are around? Yeah.
I know, like, because I know Fisher has a program. I know,
Yep.
I think Roberts has a program.
Sure do. The thing with, and again, I can only go based on what I hear in life, is Fisher and West Irondequoit, I believe.
Webster. too.
Webster as well, is that's where they try to push. We're pushing, and that goes to your second question, how? I think you just gotta put your foot down. Like, at the end of the day, nobody is gonna fight for your child or whomever you're giving care to more than yourself.
And sometimes it could be as simple as just saying, what about all the other college programs?
Yeah, or a shakedown, I'm not quite sure, you know? But yeah, they will fight you, but I think it's just a matter of you have to, it's your right.
And that, just to that point, which I was gonna say earlier too, I know we're close to ending here, but one of the things I see all over the country within education and disability is a constant push and pull between compliance and inclusion. And how people define inclusion is very different. And so all of the work that we do, almost all of the work we do, is based in some type of law. So the Higher Education Opportunity Act is what I function under. Students going to college to receive accommodations, a professor needs to be following the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So all this stuff is rooted in law, and I don't say that to say it as a threat, because that's often how it's perceived. I say that to say there's a reason why we're doing all that we're doing, and it didn't just get pulled out of the air. It's rooted in a law. It's rooted in tireless efforts of grassroots agencies and parents, much to what Jean was speaking to earlier, and folks that have spent decades fighting for their kids and for other kids. So this isn't just, I just think it's important to remember that, and sometimes to remind people of, we're not just here trying to do feel-good work. Like, there's a lot of research a lot of effort that's been put into it. So that battle between inclusion and compliance is important. So some school districts are trying to comply with laws and check boxes to report to the state. And in their hearts, they want to be more inclusive, and they can't. So there's just lots of different factors that we have to kind of work smarter on and come together. But I think sometimes in those making chairs aware might just be as simple, well, what about I've just heard about these other college programs, which could be Roberts Wesleyan, the Bell program. I know they've got a lot of cutbacks at Roberts Wesleyan. I don't know how that will impact the Bell program, or if it will at all. But Bell program is a comprehensive transition program, so that is students can receive financial aid. So a lot of the programs are kind of different and affiliated with different districts, as you know. So it's really specific to what that person wants. But the Think College database has every program within New York State.
And can you filter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Students 18 to 21, students that are still dual enrollment programs, you can filter through that. Yeah.
And just because a program is affiliated with a school district doesn't mean you have to be in that school district to go to that program.
Yeah, in some areas of the state it may though. You may have to live in a certain, right here locally.
Yeah. Life prep, no.
So we are running, it's noon, so I just wanted to go through the panel and say if you have any final thoughts or anything, or just anything you want to share about your programs. I really thank all of you for coming today. You've been wonderful, great information. And if there's anything you want to share with me, I can then email it out to the attendees after the fact. So please do share any links that you'd like to share with the community.
Perfect. I do know that Life Prep has, I think, 1 or 2 openings for this upcoming year. So if you know of anybody or anything, we can get the ball rolling.
Do you share contact information as well?
No, but.
Okay, I can email it to you, because if anyone, if I can help connect anybody to anything, I'm happy.
Share it if you're comfortable sharing.
Oh, yeah, please. If anyone wants to email about, if you have further questions or want to talk about it more, I'm happy to do that, and can link you to some folks that are asking the same questions. Happy to do that, yeah.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And I appreciate, again, having you all here.
Thanks.
Of course, you're very welcome. Thank you.